Many years ago, in a nestled village called Umuofia, there lived a girl called Amaka. Amaka lost her mother when she was still a baby as a result of childbirth complication. Amaka's father Izu got married again when Amaka was 4 years old to Ifechi. Ifechi was a lovely wife and a caring stepmother until she had her own child, Machi. Amaka was so happy to have a younger sister and wanted to be everything a big sister would be, but Ifechi restricted her from coming close to her daughter and constantly reminded her of having a dead mother. Amaka will cry and report to her father Izu, who will have little or nothing to do about it because Ifechi had outgrown his control. Many years passed, and the girls grew into beautiful young ladies, and the hate grew alongside with them, even to a double measure. Ifechi will make sure that Amaka does all the chores, including going to the farm to fetch firewood, the stream to fetch water with little food, while Machi will be at home doing nothing, enjoying all the available goodies. Izu became so worried about the condition of his first daughter and wished he never remarried. He soon developed high blood pressure that eventually claimed his life due to constant worries. Amaka was left in the cold world as an orphan and was treated so badly by Ifechi and Machi. The prince of Umuofia had been away from the village since he was 6 for his primary, secondary, and tertiary studies abroad, and it was time for him to return home as the custom of Umuofia is to choose a wife. The king's trusted secretary, Emenike, was asked to choose 6 beautiful maidens who will be in the palace when the king returns from a period of 2 months. Emenike selected Mmachi, Amaka, and 4 other beautiful village maidens. They all started to prepare to make sure that they look good. Who knows, the prince might decide to marry one of them and make her the future queen of Umuofia. Some even went as far as sacrificing to their chi to cause them to be favored amongst others. Ifechi decided to pamper Mmachi's skin so that it can become like a shining glass. She bought different skincare products and made sure she didn't skip any of her routines. Mmachi will admire herself so well in a mirror because her skin became so fresh as milk, one we can easily describe as the skin is skinning. Amaka was given more work to do and instructed to have her bath once in 2 days so that she will look sick, dry, and unpresentable before the prince for an outright rejection. One of the villagers named Adugo noticed what Ifechi and Mmachi are doing to Amaka, and she said to them, "Mother and daughter, what you are doing to Amaka is totally wrong and unacceptable. The world is a vicious circle and totally unpredictable. The future of this girl is unknown to you, and it might be brighter than that of your daughter. Please take a U-turn from this maltreatment before it is too late." "God forbid," Ifechi said. "My daughter's future is secured, and Amaka will be nowhere found close to her." Mmachi said to Adugo, "It is obvious you don't wish me well, so please take your leave right now." "Oh," Adugo answered and said, "May the earth, the trees, and everything around us bear witness that I have warned you." It was one day away to the day the selected girls would move into the palace, and Amaka was totally happy because at last she will be freed from the work for 2 good months, have access to good food and daily bath. Confined within the walls of her room, she made a little prayer and said, with hot tears dropping down her chins, "Oh Lord, I commit those that are pregnant into your hands. May they not die, leaving their children in this cold world. Keep them alive to train their children And may their children not end up like me, Amaka, who will work morning to night with no food and we only bath once in 2 days. No good clothes, no good shoe, no friend, no father, no mother, just me and my chi. She paused and cried for so long. And then she concluded her prayers with, "Let your will for my life be done as I move into the palace tomorrow." The D-Day came, and Machi had arranged all her beautiful clothes, jewels, and skincare products in her box, while Amaka had no box or good clothes to carry along. So she made up her mind to go with the one she had on, as the only thing important to her was to leave the house. Immediately she came out to join Machi. Ifechi ordered her inside. For the very first time, Amaka questioned her orders and asked why. Ifechi responded by giving her a very hot slap. "So you want to move into the palace to tell them that you work from morning to night without being fed, and also wear only one dress to make it look like I don't care? Eh, you witch?" Amaka said, "Mother, please." "Eh?" Ifechi interrupted. "I am not your mother. Your lazy and weak mother is in the grave. If you have anything to say to your mother, then locate her grave." She then turned to her daughter Machi and said, "When they ask you of Amaka in the palace, just tell them," she said, "the king, the priests, the elders, and the people of Umuofia should all go to hell, that she's not interested in the offer." Machi said to Amaka, "Oh, poor girl, try and have a mother in your next life." She then carried her box and journeyed to the palace. Amaka's hope of leaving the house became dashed, and for the first time, she felt like ending it all at the spot. But she couldn't lay her hand on anything to execute her thoughts. Just within that moment, Adugo appeared in the scene and asked what happened. Ifechi said, "Nothing happened, madam. Go to your house, Amebo." Adugo then turned to Amaka and asked what she was still doing in the house, still not dressed, while her mate had arrived at the palace. Amaka summoned the courage and told Adugo how she had been told to sit down by her stepmother, and how she had been working from morning to night with little or no food to eat, and how she has also instructed her to bathe once in 2 days, and how what she is putting on is the best of all her clothes. Adugo turned to Ifechi and said, "Woman, where is your conscience? You were supposed to be a pillar of support, a guide, and a mother to this young girl whom life has been so unfair to, but you decided to be her nightmare. How do you sleep at night knowing that you are under the same roof with someone who hasn't eaten or bathed? How? Ifechi, your fellow woman's child?" At this time, Amaka was so broken, and she said to Adugo, "Please ma, how can I die now? Because I can't continue living in this miserable world." "Don't say that again," Adugo said. "You are a child of destiny, and no matter what Ifechi and Machi, her daughter, do, you must fulfill your destiny." She then turned to Ifechi and said, "If you don't allow her go this moment, I will personally go and report you to the king. And Machi, your daughter, will be evicted, and both of you will be severely punished." Ifechi was stripped of all options than to let Amaka join the other maidens in the palace. Adugo took her first to her house, made sure she had a thorough bath, ate, and gave her a few of her daughter's clothes. Amaka was so grateful, and she made her way to the palace. On getting to the palace, the gate has been shut, and Amaka knocked at the gate carefully. The gatekeeper opened the gate and questioned her. "Please don't send me away," she said. "My stepmother tried to stop me, but somehow God came through for me." The gatekeeper said, "Just hold on, because the king already met with the other guests, and if he sees you later in their midst, I will be severely punished. Just give me a few seconds to go discuss with him. The gatekeeper got to the king and said, Your Highness, there is a maiden at the gate. She said her stepmother delayed her. And the king said, I was told the girls are not complete, so you can let her in. The gatekeeper met Amaka outside and said, You are very lucky. The king has ordered that you can join the rest of the guests. Amaka was grateful to God, at least to be saved from her stepmother's trouble. The king has ordered that the girls be two in a room, so Amaka was made to join Zara. She was so happy to finally find a home outside the lion's den she was born into. A meeting was called for the girls to introduce themselves to the palace mates, and Mmachi started. Thereafter, Zara, Ogechi, Amara, Ijoma, and finally Amaka. The king didn't disclose the reason he wanted them to be two in a room, so he quietly and secretly installed cameras in their rooms and strategic places in the palace. 1 week passed, and the girls all behaved well. However, their real character was brought into light from the second week. During their morning routine, Amaka performed excellently well because she's used to working alone. Mmachi was so envious, and she decided to do something that would make Amaka to be evicted from the palace. Amaka, on her part, was avoiding Mmachi and was obedient to every instruction because she didn't want to enter into any trouble. She barely sits idle, as she wasn't trained to, so she sometimes finds her way to the kitchen to help the maids out in cooking and doing the dishes. She feels so relaxed among the maids and even hopes to be employed as one of them as soon as the 2 months elapse. Ogechi was so troublesome in the palace and claimed the position she hasn't attained, while Ijoma was busy sleeping with one of the palace guards, and she soon became pregnant and was evicted out of the palace. Mmachi's mother, Ifechi, prepared the charm which she smuggled into the palace the day the prince returned, with a written note on how Mmachi should apply it. Mmachi rubbed it on her tongue the next morning, went in and greeted the prince in his room, and immediately she said, Good morning, my prince. The prince was charmed and lost every sense of his decency. The same charm made every maiden to start misbehaving, except Amaka, who was not in any competition with them. Mmachi was so happy that the charm worked, and automatically she started behaving like Umuofia's queen, ordering everyone around with the full support of the prince. Amaka and the chief palace guard became so close that she told him the story of her life. She saw the way the other maidens were behaving and how everything had turned into a war competition, and she discussed with the chief palace guard on how she wants to meet with the king to tell him that she is voluntarily quitting and also crave on his indulgence to be employed as a maid in the palace. The chief guard said, Amaka, please don't quit. You are such a good girl, a well-mannered, beautiful maiden. If I were to be rich, I will hurriedly pay your bride price and just have you all to myself. Amaka laughed and said, You don't have to be rich for me to accept your proposal. If you ask me to marry you, I will. We will both work here in the palace, save money, and then resign to build our future together. Are you serious? The chief palace guard asked. Yes, I am, Amaka responded. Are you saying this because you are looking for a way to escape your stepmother? The chief palace guard asked. No, that will be from frying pan to fire, because marriage is sacred and a lifetime decision that mustn't be toyed with. I, Amaka, said so because I like you. You are hardworking, loyal, dedicated, and humble, and all these attributes of yours will create a conducive home atmosphere for any woman. Just as they were discussing, the other maidens started their usual quarrel, and the chief guard needed to be at the scene to caution them. Later that day, Amaka went to see the king and said, "Long live the king. Please, your majesty, permit me to voluntarily opt out from this competition." "But why?" the king asked. Amaka said, "I am no match for the prince of Umuofia. I am just a poor orphan that has been exposed to high life and has nothing in common with the prince. Please employ me as one of the palace maids, for that is where I belong, in order to earn the living and build something out of my destiny." The chief palace guard walked in and was surprised to see Amaka with the king. Then the king mentioned all that Amaka had said. And the chief guard turned to Amaka in surprise and said, "I thought we have discussed this, and I said you shouldn't quit." Amaka then responded and said, "With the way things are going, someone may die you, because it has turned into a war." The king then said, "Go into your room right away. I will get back to you later." The chief palace guard pleaded with the king never to approve Amaka's request, as she was the best amongst the other maidens. The king smiled and nodded in affirmation because he is fully aware of what is happening in the palace through the secret cameras. The king ordered the guard to assemble all the guests for a closed-door meeting. His Royal Majesty thanked all of them for agreeing to stay in the palace so far, and he evicted Ijoma and Ogechi for their immoral acts in the palace. They denied it, but the king gave them the dates and time it happened and said, "You can't become the future queen with such attitude because you will bring disgrace to the royal home." They were accompanied out of the palace by the palace guards. So Mmachi, Amaka, Zara, and Amara were asked to retire back to their rooms. Amaka was disappointed that the king didn't consider her request. She was tired of the whole thing and just wanted to stay with the maids to start up a new life. Ifechi sneaked into the palace and found her daughter by the corner of the palace, unaware that they were monitored by a camera. She asked, "Mmachi, my daughter, is the charm working?" "Ah!" Mmachi exclaimed, "It is working fire." She told her mother how she had been acting as the queen of Umuofia with the prince fully in support of her actions, and how she has been servicing the prince's bed almost every night. Ifechi, her mother, then said, "So you mean I should go home and start practicing on how to be the future queen's mother?" "Yes, so, Mama," Mmachi answered. They laughed, and Mmachi said, "That girl Amaka will experience hell on earth, and she will be my personal maid when I finally become the queen." Ifechi said, "A trap set is a trap set. And when I become a royal in-law, that Adugo will be taught a great lesson, that in her next life she will learn to mind her business." Mmachi told her mother to leave the palace immediately before someone eavesdrops on them. The prince, who had been ensnared, started announcing that he has made his choice and that Mmachi is the one his heart yearns for and the very one that tickles his fancy. Amaka couldn't wait for the last day. She simply came up with an idea to beg the chief guard to allow her do the cooking for the remaining days she'll be spending there. She felt the king will automatically consider her request when he eats from her meal. The chief guard, who was naive about Amaka's intention, didn't hesitate in granting her wish. The king and the prince couldn't deny the fact that the recent meals they've been having in the palace tasted so different, with everything in moderation. And the king asked if a new cook has been employed without his approval. And the chief guard answered and said, "No, your majesty. Amaka has been the one cooking and also the brain behind some of the little decoration in the palace." The king was impressed and was 100% assured that Amaka was the right queen for the prince. He asked the prince what he thinks about Amaka, and the prince said, "Amaka is not my kind of woman. I have already made my choice, and that is final." Mmachi wasn't comfortable with the remaining 3 maidens, that is Zara, Amaka, and Amara. So she thought of doing something drastic in order to get them evicted before the end of the contest, so that she can be declared the winner automatically. She picked up a fight, but Zara and Amaka were so wise and they avoided her completely. But Amara fell for it, and the prince became so angry that he said, "You fought my woman. Eh? Who gave you that audacity?" And he ordered that the guards throw her out of the palace. Machi was so happy to be leading in the contest, and it was 2 days to the end of their stay in the palace. Amaka went back to the chief guard and said, "I sincerely want to thank you for being a friend." The chief guard appreciated her too for being a good girl and void of troubles. Amaka then asked, "Can you please do me a favor?" "Why not? What are friends for?" the chief guard responded. Amaka continued, "Please help me relate again to the king about employing me as one of the palace maids. We have 2 days left, and sincerely I don't want to go back home to my father's house because my stepmother will kill me this time. I prefer to stay here even if Machi is being crowned the future king of Umuofia, because there will be a limit to what I will pass through. Please do this for me. I beg you." The chief guard said, "Wipe your tears, my friend. I will do everything within my power to secure the job for you. I also don't want to miss your face, and I wouldn't be at rest if you return, knowing that your father's house is not a safe place for you, and what you have passed through in the hands of that wicked woman before now. Thank you so much. I promise not to disappoint you when I'm finally employed," Amaka said, and retired back to her room. The D-Day had come, and all the villagers were gathered at the palace to witness the occasion of the selection of the future queen of Umuofia. Zara and Machi were looking so gorgeous with their expensive flowing princess gowns, but Amaka had a simple top and skirt Adugo had given to her, waiting to just resume after the occasion. At least that was what that matters most to her. The king addressed his people and said, "We all know that 6 girls were selected by Emenike, the palace secretary. 3 had been evicted, and these 3 got to the finals. Although the prince had made his choice, but as the custom of the village of Umuofia is, the prince has to declare it in the presence of the whole villagers." And the whole villagers answered, "That's true, your majesty." The king continued, "As we all know that the prince of Umuofia relocated abroad when he was only 6 years old after the death of my wife, and I know that since he returned to the palace, most of you haven't seen him, and I also know that most of you can't even recognize him if you meet him on the way. So my people, permit me to present to you the prince of Umuofia." The villagers started clapping, and he said, "Behold Ekene, the prince of this land." Everybody was shocked to see the chief palace guard. Machi fainted, and her mother became speechless. Ekene, the supposed chief palace guard, greeted his people and told them how his father, the king, came up with the plan and how grateful he is because the plan bettered the best gifts any man can ask for. Prince Ekene then said, "My people, the future queen of this land is no other than Amaka." Amaka couldn't believe what was going on, so she just stood there without moving. She was just speechless, and suddenly tears rolled down her eyes. Ekene the prince went to meet her, wiped her tears, and ordered the guards to bring the royal dress he had made for her. Still like a dream to Amaka, because she didn't believe that the Lord would come through for her so quick. She wore the dress and looked so ravishingly beautiful. Machi, on the other hand, has been revived, but she and her mother couldn't behold the sight of Amaka being crowned the future queen of Umuofia, so they had to run out of the palace in shame. Months had passed, and Machi discovered she had taken in for the supposed prince she met in the palace, only for her to discover that the king hired him from somewhere and has paid him off. She carried the pregnancy full term and became a single mother.